In the cold silence of deep space, far beyond the glowing stars and drifting dust, there was a border. It was invisible, unseen by ordinary eyes, yet every empire in the galaxy knew where it was. They whispered about it in hushed tones. They marked it on their star maps, never daring to cross it. That line was known simply as human space. For centuries, the warning had been the same. Do not enter human territory uninvited. Do not test their patience, do not challenge their claim. Other civilizations dismissed these stories as myths, tales told to frighten smugglers and young explorers. But the veterans of the galaxy knew better. Some fleets had tested the boundary. None had ever returned. Now another fleet had arrived. A proud armada of alien warships painted with the colors of conquest, moving like shadows through the void. Their commanders laughed at the warnings. Humans were young, they said. Humans were weak. Humans had no empire worth fearing. And so, they pressed forward, engines glowing, their arrogance blinding them to the silence that surrounded them. At first, everything seemed calm. The stars glittered as usual, the blackness endless, their scanners clear. The invaders believed the stories were false. They crossed deeper into the forbidden region, ignoring the tension that weighed on their crews. Then, strange things began to happen. The alien ships lost contact with their probes. Messages that were sent ahead never returned. Navigation systems flickered as if the very stars had shifted. Some claimed they saw shadows moving in the void, vast shapes with no heat, no signal, only silence. Fear began to creep into the hearts of the crews, though their commanders barked orders and laughed at superstition. But fear has a way of growing in silence. The fleet pushed forward. Their arrogance turned into unease as their long-range sensors failed. It was as if something was jamming every signal, something unseen wrapping around them. Their commanders gave the order to power their weapons, just in case. But deep down, every soldier on those ships felt the same chill, like prey being watched. And then, the first ship vanished. It did not explode. It did not fire. It simply disappeared. One moment it was on the fleet's scanners, its engines burning, bright. The next it was gone, snuffed out like a candle. No distress signal, no wreckage, just silence. The fleet halted, panic spreading through their ranks. The commanders shouted orders to tighten formation to search for the missing vessel. But there was nothing to find. Minutes later, another ship disappeared. This time, the crew heard screams. Over the comms, brief, sharp, and then cut off. The sound echoed across the fleet before vanishing into static. Soldiers gripped their weapons with trembling hands, staring into the darkness of space, but saw nothing. The invaders realized, far too late, that the legends were true. Human space was not empty. It was not undefended. It was a trap. And then the humans revealed themselves. Out of the void, massive warships materialized. They had been waiting in silence, cloaked by technology no alien could detect. Their hulls were black and sharp, covered in glowing scars of light like predators lurking in the shadows. Their weapons were already armed. Their engines burned with a power the aliens had never seen. The first human ship struck without warning. Its cannons unleashed a storm of fire, tearing through an alien cruiser in a single shot. The explosion lit up the void, scattering debris across the fleet. Before the invaders could even respond, the human warship disappeared again, slipping back into the darkness. Chaos erupted. Alien commanders shouted orders, their fleets scrambling to fight an enemy they could not see. Their scanners showed nothing. Their weapons fired blindly into the void. But every shot missed. And then another human ship appeared, this time from behind. More fire, more destruction. Another alien vessel ripped apart before their eyes. Fear became terror. The fleet realized it was surrounded. Human ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts, striking with precision, vanishing before counterattack. The invaders were trapped in a battlefield they did not understand. Every direction was death. Every moment another ship vanished. Another. Scream cut short. The commanders, once proud and arrogant, now begged for answers. Who were these humans? How had they turned space itself into a weapon? Why had no one warned them of this nightmare? But the galaxy had warned them. They had simply refused to listen. In the silence of human space, there was only one law. No one enters uninvited. No one leaves alive. And as the fleet struggled against the shadows, as their ships fell one by one into fire and silence, the truth became clear. They had crossed into human space, and none of them would ever return. The alien fleet hung in the darkness, broken and terrified. They had crossed into human space with confidence, believing the warnings were nothing but myths. Now their formation was shattered. Entire ships had vanished, their crews silenced forever. The commanders tried to regain control, barking orders through trembling voices, but every signal felt like a cry into the void. The silence of human space was heavier than any weapon. Far away, hidden within a fortress carved into a dead asteroid, alarms pulsed in rhythm. In a human command center, officers stood over glowing maps of the intruding fleet. They did not panic. They did not debate. Their orders were already clear, written long before this day arrived. No one enters human space without permission. No one leaves alive. Targets locked, whispered one operator. Authorization? The commander, an old soldier with a scar running across his jaw, did not hesitate. His reply was cold. Erase them, and the hunt began. Human warships, cloaked in silence, moved like predators circling prey. They did not appear on sensors. They did not light their engines until the moment of attack. The first strike came swift and brutal. A single human destroyer emerged from the shadows, its weapons already armed. In one shot, it tore through an alien battleship, splitting it into two burning halves. Before the aliens could even react, the destroyer vanished again, slipping back into the black void. The alien fleet panicked. They fired wildly into the darkness, beams of plasma cutting across the stars, hitting nothing. Every shot wasted fuel. Every explosion blinded their sensors further. And then the humans struck again, this time from behind. Another alien cruiser was gutted in seconds, its crew screaming before the comms went silent. The invaders were used to fighting loud wars, where fleets met face to face and strength decided victory. But this was not war. This was execution. On board the alien flagship, fear spread like a disease. Officers begged their commander to retreat, but pride chained him. He ordered his fleet to regroup, to stand their ground. Yet even as they tightened, human ships moved faster. They cut through the formation like knives, each strike precise, each disappearance flawless. It was like fighting ghosts. Then came the sound that chilled every alien to the core. A voice. Across their comms, clear and calm, a human transmission broke through the static. You have trespassed into human space. You will not leave. The words were simple, but their weight was crushing. The aliens had expected resistance, maybe a desperate fight. They had not expected certainty. They realized too late that humans were not defending. They were punishing. Back on Earth, civilians did not yet know the details of the battle. But in underground bunkers and hidden stations, whispers spread. They came again. And like before, they will not leave. For generations, humanity had carried scars from wars against each other. But now, facing an enemy from the stars, there was no division. Humanity stood as one, their fleets united under a single purpose: protect their home, no matter the cost. The alien fleet tried one last tactic. They launched drones, thousands of them, hoping to flush out the invisible human warships. The void filled with swarms of machines, each scanning, each searching. For a moment, it seemed they might find something, but the humans were already prepared. With perfect timing, hidden mines detonated across the battlefield. Explosions rippled through the swarms, wiping them out in seconds. Alien ships, caught in the chain reaction, broke apart, their hulls melting as fire spread. The survivors realized the truth. This battlefield had been designed long ago. Human space was not just defended. It was a trap. The galaxy had laughed at humans, calling them fragile, reckless, short-lived. But the humans had studied war like no other. They had turned silence into a weapon, patience into power, and darkness into a shield. Every part of their territory had been prepared for this moment. The alien commander's pride finally cracked. He ordered a retreat, but it was too late. The exits were already blocked. Human fleets closed in from every direction, their cannons glowing, their missiles ready. The invaders were surrounded, their numbers shrinking with every passing minute. On the last transmission the alien fleet sent, desperation was clear. "We crossed into human space. The stories are true, we will not..." The message cut off in static as their flagship exploded, torn apart by a human dreadnought. In the silence that followed, humanity spoke again, broadcasting a final message into the stars. "This is human space. Trespassers will not return." The galaxy would hear those words, and it would never forget. The alien fleet was in chaos. Their formations had collapsed, their discipline shattered. Every time they tried to regroup, another ship was torn apart by unseen fire. The commanders shouted in rage, their pride bleeding away with every loss. They had entered human space thinking they would dominate. Instead, they were being hunted like animals. But what they did not yet realize was this: they were already inside the trap. Humanity had prepared for this day long before it came. The border of their territory was not just empty space, it was a fortress, invisible and vast. For decades, engineers and soldiers had filled the void with hidden weapons, mines the size of moons, cloaked satellites armed with cannons, silent stations drifting among the stars. Every inch of human space was a battlefield designed to strangle invaders. The aliens pressed forward, desperate to find a way out. Their sensors scanned wildly, but every reading was false. Fake signals lured them deeper, convincing them that escape lay just ahead. Then, detonation. A hidden mine ignited, ripping 3 cruisers apart in a single blast. The shockwave tore through their shields, scattering ships like leaves in a storm. Survivors panicked, pulling away in random directions, only to stumble into more traps. One squadron tried to retreat, engines blazing as they raced back toward the border. But the moment they crossed a certain line, dozens of human warships decloaked around them. Black shapes with glowing eyes, their cannons already armed. In seconds, the entire squadron was erased, their wreckage reduced to dust. The invaders finally understood the truth. They were not in a battle. They were in a killing ground. On their comms, fear grew louder than orders. Voices shouted, begging for guidance, screaming about shadows in the void, begging not to be left behind. Some tried to surrender, broadcasting desperate signals, but the humans did not reply. They gave no second chances. Trespassers were prey, and prey was meant to be destroyed. On board a human command ship, officers monitored the battle with calm precision. Their screens lit up with alien positions, every movement tracked, every weakness exploited. "Sector 3 is collapsing," one reported. "They're trying to push toward the nebula." The commander nodded. "Close it. Don't let them breathe." And so, more human fleets slipped into position, blocking the path. The aliens stumbled into the nebula, hoping the gas clouds would hide them. But hidden within the clouds were human outposts, waiting like spiders in a web. As the invaders entered, the outposts unleashed storms of missiles, ripping the fleet apart from every angle. By the time the smoke cleared, nothing remained. The survivors realized there was no escape. Every path they took ended in fire. Every signal they followed was a lie. Human space itself was alive with weapons and traps. The galaxy had always called humans reckless, short-lived, fragile. But now, the aliens saw what others had feared to admit. Humans were patient hunters. They built traps not for days or years, but for centuries. And now, those traps had closed. Panic turned into desperation. A final group of ships tried to rally around their flagship, forming a last defensive wall. Their commander shouted promises, swearing they could fight their way out. But deep down, everyone on those ships knew the truth. This was not a fight they could win. It was a death sentence. And then, the humans came in full. Out of the darkness, colossal dreadnoughts appeared, warships so massive they eclipsed the stars. Their hulls were scarred with the history of countless battles, their weapons glowing with terrible light. They advanced in silence, surrounding the alien fleet like wolves closing on cornered prey. The alien commander tried one last time to send a warning to the galaxy. "This is Fleet Koran. We crossed into human space. It is a trap. The message ended in fire as his ship was obliterated in a single blast. In that moment, silence returned. The battlefield was quiet again, except for the drifting wreckage of what had once been a proud armada. No survivors, no escape, only ashes. The humans gave no cheer, no celebration. Their fleets simply faded back into the void, vanishing as quickly as they had appeared. The galaxy would not even see the evidence because the humans erased everything. Wreckage was collected, signals were jammed, records were wiped clean. To the outside, it would look as if the fleet had vanished into nothing. And perhaps that was worse than destruction, because soon whispers would spread, rumors of a fleet that crossed into human space and never came back. No bodies, no ships, no signals, just silence. For the galaxy, silence was terrifying. The alien fleet was no longer an army. It was prey scattered across the dark. They had entered human space with pride, believing they would conquer a younger race. Now they were running blind, every path leading into fire. Their commanders argued, their officers screamed, and their soldiers trembled in silence. Pride had turned to panic. Panic had turned to despair. But humanity was not finished. The trap had closed. Now came the wrath. From the void, human fleets revealed themselves fully for the first time. Dreadnoughts, colossal and grim, emerged from the shadows, their hulls scarred with old battles, their weapons glowing with terrible energy. Smaller ships fanned out around them, destroyers, carriers, cruisers, all moving with perfect precision. It was not chaos. It was not desperation. It was a hunt carried out with cold patience. The aliens fired everything they had. Plasma cannons blazed, missiles streaked through the black, and energy beams cut across the void. But humanity's fleets absorbed the storm, their shields glowing, their formations unbroken. Then, with terrifying calm, they answered. A single command echoed across the human channels. Fire. The darkness lit up like a second sun. Missiles streaked in swarms, tearing into alien hulls. Cannons roared, punching holes straight through armored cruisers. Beams of light cut carriers in half, their wreckage spilling into the void. Alien ships that had once carried slaves from countless worlds now drifted as broken corpses among the stars. The invaders tried to retreat, engines burning, but the exits were gone. Human fleets blocked every path. Some alien commanders ordered suicide runs desperate to break the wall. They failed. Human ships cut them down before they came close. The battlefield was no longer war. It was slaughter. And yet, the humans gave no cheer. No cries of victory, no taunts, no laughter. Their silence was more terrifying than the destruction. To the aliens, it felt as though the humans were not fighting enemies. They were cleaning pests. On the ground, resistance fighters watched the skies glow with fire. For weeks, humanity had fought in the shadows, ambushing patrols, destroying machines with stones and stolen rifles. Now, as they saw the alien fleet burning in orbit, they realized they were not alone. The hidden warships, the dreadnoughts, the silent fleets, they had always been there waiting for this moment. Across the galaxy, signals leaked. Slave races who had been crushed for centuries intercepted pieces of the battle. They heard the screams of alien commanders. They saw the destruction of ships once thought invincible. And then they heard the message, carried across every frequency. This is human space. Trespassers will not return. For some, it was hope. For others, it was terror. The alien fleet, broken and desperate, tried one last gambit. Their flagship gathered its remaining power, preparing a weapon that could incinerate half a planet. If they could not conquer, they would destroy. But the humans were already moving. 3 dreadnoughts locked onto the flagship, their weapons glowing brighter than suns. In one volley, the flagship was erased, its threat silenced, its pride turned to ash. In the command center of the human fleet, the old scarred commander gave no smile. He only gave one order: clean it all. And so the humans erased every trace of the invaders. Wreckage was destroyed. Escape pods were hunted. Signals were jammed. When the battle ended, nothing remained. To the galaxy, it would appear as if the alien fleet had simply vanished into the dark. The silence returned. The trap was reset. Human space was quiet once again. But the galaxy would not forget. Empires that once mocked humanity now watched with dread. Rulers who had laughed at human weakness now studied their maps, making sure their fleets never strayed near human borders. Slave races whispered with hope. If humans could erase an entire fleet, maybe freedom was possible. And across distant stars, the story spread like fire. They crossed into human space. None of them came back. The battlefield had fallen silent. Where once an alien armada filled the void with fire and fury, now only wreckage remained. Twisted metal drifted like broken bones among the stars. The screams of commanders, the cries of soldiers, the arrogant laughter of invaders, all were gone. Human fleets moved through the wreckage without celebration, without mercy. They did not see victory. They saw only a job finished. Every survivor was hunted. Escape pods that tried to slip away were tracked and destroyed. Distress signals were jammed before they could leave the system. No messenger would escape to tell the tale. The humans were methodical, as if they had done this before, and perhaps they had. For the galaxy had long whispered that fleets which crossed into human space simply vanished. Now the invaders understood why. Back on Earth, people slowly emerged from their shelters. Cities were scarred, skies still burned, but above them, no alien ships remained. Children looked up and saw only human vessels, their massive forms glowing like guardians in the night. Survivors whispered to one another, "They came here. They wanted to enslave us. But look, they are gone." The weight of fear began to lift, replaced with something new: pride. In orbit, the old scarred commander watched as the last pieces of the alien fleet were erased. His eyes were cold, his voice steady. No signals leave this system. No trace remains. Human space is clean again. His officers obeyed without question. Every wreck was collected. Every body burned in silence. To the galaxy beyond, nothing would remain but mystery, and that was the point. In the weeks that followed, whispers spread like wildfire across the stars. Traders and smugglers who skirted near human borders noticed a strange silence. They had heard of a fleet that crossed into human space, a fleet that boasted of victory before vanishing. No one had seen them since. No messages returned. No signals detected. The fleet was gone. Completely gone. Some claimed the humans destroyed them. Others believed the humans took them as prisoners, using them for dark experiments. Some whispered that human space itself was alive, a graveyard that swallowed trespassers whole. Whatever the truth, one fact was certain: none had come back. In distant empires, rulers who once laughed at humanity now grew silent. Generals studied maps, warning their fleets never to cross the human border. Advisors spoke in low voices. Do not provoke them. Leave them alone. Slave races, long broken under alien chains, whispered with hope. If humans could erase an HFY armada, maybe they could do more. Maybe freedom was not impossible. On Earth, life returned slowly. Families rebuilt homes. Soldiers buried their dead. Engineers worked day and night to repair the warships that had revealed themselves in battle. Humanity mourned, but humanity also grew stronger. For the first time, every nation stood united. No rivalries, no wars between them. Humanity had faced an enemy from the stars and survived. That unity would never fade. Yet beneath the pride was something darker. Humanity had not only defended itself, it had shown the galaxy a lesson written in fire. Human space was sacred. Trespassers would vanish, and word of that law spread farther each day. The galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. Where once they saw weakness, they now saw danger. Where once they saw prey, they now saw predators. And perhaps that was humanity's true power. Not their ships, not their weapons, but the fear they left behind. At the edge of human space, warning buoys floated in silence. Their message was simple, repeated in every galactic tongue. Do not enter. You will not return. No more needed to be said. And so, the legend was born. Across countless worlds, in dark taverns and royal courts, the story was told again, and again they crossed into human space when none of them came back.